I heard mention that episode 10 of Fate Strange Fake was going to potentially be amazing, and I'm so glad it lived up to the hype. Holy crap, what an episode. The fights in this episode, the conclusions, like so much of WTF moments where I'm like, holy crap, this sucks, or holy crap, this happened. I don't even know where to begin. I guess we could start with Gilgamesh. Rip question mark. I'm so mad because I love to hate Gilgamesh, and I like him when he's on screen. I hate his guts. He's a narcissistic freak, but he has power, so he's allowed to kind of be that way. But I love him. I just love his snarky attitude, and I've loved him in this series because of, his relationship with Tine and trying to help her kind of, establish some courage and step up and do what she wants to do. Like, all this stuff is like making me like this storyline here and that comedy that's around there. So I hate to see him gone. The only reason I can somewhat excuse it is the fact that Ishtar was involved. Yes, we confirmed that this lady is actually Ishtar. At least that's the goddess that's inside of him. And I'm like, okay, yes, my queen, do whatever you want. If you want to take out everybody in the scene, go ahead, girl. I bow to you. I love my Ishtar. I love my Tosaka faces, so I'm all for this. But it still sucks. I don't know. Is he dead? That's the question mark. If he's actually dead, that kind of does make Berserker extremely scary. Again, that was a single shot. Just steps up, one shot kills him. And that was a nasty little beam there. I love how they kind of portray that with it's almost like a magnifying glass. You see that kind of heat building up right there as this laser kind of builds up and the heat increases. And then suddenly everything behind him that's not as, strong and, unable to be destroyed like Gilgamesh is, all these buildings are just getting liquefied. And he just falls down. And that thump was some dead weight. That was some very dead weight. That was no he's still struggling. That was just dead weight hitting the building. So I'm like, I think my boy's gone. But at the same time, I feel like Enkidu was trying to do something. There was one shot that Enkidu helped him with, and so I'd assume that Enkidu was kind of involved to kind of give him a little bit of shielding again. I'm kind of curious again why Enkidu is going through so much effort to help them out, but that could be because he's well, yes, the relationship between Enkidu and Gilgamesh, obviously. But I do think there's kind of also probably something to do with that alliance that was set up. They're still all kind of built together. Again, I think there's technically three different fronts right now. One being, Ishtar, and I'm believing, Alcades and his master, Bazdalot. I believe they're all together with, Francesca. And then over here, we, of course, have, the alliance of Sigma and, Richard and all them. So I'm kind of curious, again, if that'll come into play, or, again, Enkidu just likes Gilgamesh. They're just buddies. They're just buddies in a way. But anyways, yeah, I'm still a little bit upset, though, because I don't want Gilgamesh taken out that early. I don't think they will, because I think what I've heard mention of, this is maybe not even halfway through the novel series. So I don't know if they want to take out Gilgamesh that early, but we'll see. We'll see. I know he's a very beloved character, but again, he's a very chaotic character to have around. But anyways, episode 10 of Fate Strange Fake. Let's just go through segments like I typically do, and hopefully something will come together here, my notes and everything like that, because there's a lot to really cover here, and I don't want to really miss anything. But let's start off things with, of course, the initial fight with Alcades and Jack. Of course, Alcades accepting Jack, saying, I'm going to etch this memory of this battle into my heart, still sees him as a human in the end, not really getting stuck on what his appearance is, still seeing him as a human, and yet, again, still showing that honor and that respect for the fight they just had, and etching into his heart. Before, yes, Flat ends up using a command seal in order to pull Jack away. This is where, yes, we find out that the heroic spirit, the actual spirit origin, is what has pretty much been infused inside of Alcades, or at least in the mud itself. So right here, Jack has come to the conclusion that he can't ever get it back. And that was the question mark that I had. Were they going to figure out a way of taking out Alcades and then they would be able to get it back? No, this is saying that the spirit origin has been fused with the mud. So even if they take out Alcades, I guess the mud's still there. That essence is still there. That still is going to have that, which was interesting because I thought that initially it was going to be Alcades' noble phantasm that stole his noble phantasm. This is saying that the spirit origin itself has been fused in there, and they can't even get rid of it. The only way that he says that he could possibly get it back is if he gets destroyed, and then he gets resummoned. I like how Flat, even at this moment, is thinking, well, so we can do that, but will it still be you? Flat's already thinking about, we can do this. Okay, let's go ahead and resummon you. Which I don't know how easily they could do that. So yeah, that was an interesting little kind of revelation there. But Anyways, that's when we have the appearance of Caster, which, yes, ends up revealing his name, which is Dumas. Now, I think they did mention Dumas previously. I think it was specifically Orlando's assistant saying that it was a confirmation of what Dumas found or something like that. But I wasn't really sure if she was talking about Caster. Anyways, yes, this is confirmation. It is Dumas, the author of The Three Musketeers. And seems like he wants to come up to help out, which, yes, does make sense. It does seem like Dumas does sort of have at least some care for the men that Orlando is, using. I got a sense from the very first time that John got hurt that Dumas didn't like when, the men got hurt. So it does seem like he's kind of stepping out to the front line and wanting to find any sort of resources he can use, and he ends up making, seemingly, Flat one of his protagonists. He decides to come out there and have Flat become one of his protagonists. Decides to devise a plan to essentially fuse the two of them. That's sort of what I got a sense of what he said there. Since Jack the Ripper can become anyone, mixing that with the boy's presence, I can fortify your powers temporarily. Now, why I think it's a fusing is because he says, I'm not sure the side effects will be what the master will have after being stewed with the street slasher. So again, stewing kind of tells me the sense that, again, they're going to be fused together in a way. Going to take both their presence and put them together, which we do kind of see that when they go back out to the battlefield. You have, Flat is basically out there with him. He's saying he's specifically out there with him. Alcaides is asking, why is he out here with you? You could easily do this elsewhere. Why is he here? So it seems like the two of them are kind of temporarily, mimicking each other, which works out because, yes, we see that Flat is able to get up close to him because of that and able to activate a spell that apparently he attached to the Noble Phantasm of Jack the Ripper. This was a weird part where I was like, wait, did he just do this just now, or did he pre-plan this? That's the question mark. Did he pre-plan it and have that magic, spell implanted in the Noble Phantasm? I don't know, because again, it implies that when he took it into himself and put it in that mud and it's been mixed in there, Flat is now activating it from inside of him, not that he's now applying it to it. It could be that applying it to it because, again, it's partly his power. It's his. But either way, yes, he gets in close to Alcaides in order to activate it. Freaking messes him up really well. And then, yes, at that point, John comes back. John's still alive. John makes it back. And yeah, this kind of played into my theory. I knew that he wasn't going to be dead. The question mark is, how is he still alive? That's the question mark. Is that simply Dumas is riding him into surviving? Or did, again, the power of the gauntlet save him? It does look like the gauntlet ends up being the, spear, whatever, that they originally brought up a long time ago that was, delivered to him, this thing that has the poison of the Hydra. And that's what they're going to use to inject into Alcaides to poison him. But of course, it ends up turning into this whole thing where it's, something that was created by man. It can't take me down. It can't stop my desire for revenge, yada, yada, yada. Still ends up infusing into him. And we get into that later on when he fights Gilgamesh. But still, I'm kind of curious as to what ends up being the reason why he ended up surviving. And I think it's probably going to be just simply Dumas didn't write it that way. And there's a belief that it kind of exists. There's a reason why it would still kind of play out, and thus it becomes into reality. Either way, it was really cool. Kind of having Dumas, step out to the front line, not stay hidden down in the, the basement, just like Flat stepping out the front lines. I love seeing whenever you have, individuals that normally have to fight in the background step forward because we got to get this stuff done. We got to get this stuff done. Dumas, again, seemingly, I feel he's doing it for the guys. He's trying to do it for all of, Orlando's people, trying to get them backed up and whatnot. It seems pretty cool. I do like there was like a little bit of a sense there of trust between him and Flat, very temporarily, which again, could be why Dumas was willing to go out there and confront Flat, is because he's seen the conversation between Orlando and Flat and knew that he can kind of be trusted. But I like that little initial, hey, oh, you're Dumas, the one that wrote this or this or this. He's like, it's the second one. He's like, oh, wow, Three Musketeers. I love that. I like the, the adaptation here and there and there. And he's like, it's really cool that you like stepped up and you planted that little spell inside of my shadow like that, but not very mage-like to be getting too caught up in talking about the Three Musketeers. No, I really want to talk about that. Like Flat's like, I legit like this stuff. I just wasn't sure if you're going to be an enemy, so I did this just in case. Like, if you don't, you're not my enemy, then we're all good. I wasted a little bit of mana, that's fine, but if you were my enemy, then that's bad for you. I love that little sense there where, like, everybody's thrown off by him. We have literally two characters in this entire Holy Grail War that just really shouldn't be there. Like, Flat more so needs to be there because this is something that he finds joy in, he finds interest in, so he's still personally going to get something out of this, but he's something that doesn't really fit, is really the key thing there. That's why everybody keeps saying, you're not really, like, acting like a real mage. Same thing with Ayaka. Ayaka is just, like, pulling the situation, and she's not really a mage, she's not a master, she's just kind of getting thrown into the whole situation, but is still kind of there. I guess you can argue that the same thing goes with, you know, Sigma. Sigma really shouldn't be there, but was crafted that way. I guess Tsubaki... I guess they're all... now that I think more about it, all these masters don't deserve to be here. There's very few of them that really want to be here. The Chimera was being experimented on, or I guess Orlando wants to be there, so that works out. Jester wants to be there. Tine sort of wants to be there for their people, all that kind of stuff. Basilot... it seems like he has a reason to be there. Anyways, yap. But anyways, the whole thing with Flat on the front line was cool, though. Utilizing his little, you know, game select and all that kind of crap to get the injection in there and mess up the spell and all that kind of stuff. Eventually, again, poisons Alkaidas. Alkaidas runs off. Elsewhere, we see the fight with Gilgamesh and Richard. And I love this. I don't have any abilities to get close to you, but I can definitely, you know, match you by speed or whatever. And he just starts spamming Excalibur. Excalibur. Like, this dude's, like, got an exploit so that he could just pop off the ults. It's just like Assassin, though. It's like Assassin when they had Jester's ability. They were just popping off things like crazy. It's the same thing with Richard. He's just like, okay, Excalibur. And again, I think that's because it seems like it implies that through Ayaka, it's going to Ishtar, ? Because again, Ayaka is like a proxy there, and so they're able to feed through her. But again, I was kind of surprised to see that, at least with Hansa, they didn't really see that, or at least foresee that, or see some sort of connection there. Because Hansa's like, what the hell are you? He's like, are you doing okay? Your servant's out there popping off ults over and over again. Yeah, Hansa's like, what are you? Like, how are you pulling this off? And you're acting like you're just having like a little bit of a light head or whatever. You're a little bit exhausted, a little sluggish. Even at least to even conceive of trying to do what Richard's doing out there, you would at least need to be like a high level mage. But yet you're just like, I'm a little sluggish. I yawn, a little bit of yawn. But yeah, eventually Gilgamesh blasts Richard into the church, says that he planned on destroying him and the entire church altogether. For some reason, it looks like Hansa just disappears. Now that I think about that, Hansa just disappears. Like, this whole explosion happens on the church. Hansa's supposed to be protecting Ayaka, and the moment that Gilgamesh shows up and blasts Richard into the church, Hansa just disappears for the rest of the episode. I don't know, seems kind of convenient. Seems like he didn't really want to protect her, but... anyways, yes, Gilgamesh knocks him out. Richard makes one last request because apparently he gained Gilgamesh's respect. Says, hey, can you let this lady live? She's got kind of, you know, tied up in this whole situation. She's not actually a master. Gilgamesh says, yeah, if she doesn't bother me, she's fine. I don't care. Before, yes, Alkaidas shows up to, I guess, in the moment of death, try to get one last hit in. That was the interesting thing because it implied to me that when they were fighting with, you know, John and Jack the Ripper and Flat, Alkaidas wasn't lethally killed. He's like, oh, this is created by man, this won't harm me, this won't stop me. Again, the sense there that because I have so much desire for revenge, this poison isn't going to stop me, it's fake or whatever. But it seems to imply, based on what Gilgamesh says, is you in your moment of death, you still came here to get your revenge or whatever. It kind of implies to me that, yeah, Alkaidas is not doing very good. But either way, yes, he shows up to take out Gilgamesh in the last little minute here. Which, yes, doesn't go very well for Gilgamesh because as they start popping off eventually, suddenly Gilgamesh's abilities just suddenly stop. That somebody locked up his vault. All of his vaults just suddenly shut because, yes, Best Girl shows up. Best Girl of the entirety of the Fate franchise, a Tosaka face, Ishtar shows up to get a little revenge on Gilgamesh, to take out Gilgamesh. Says that she had to go in some damp cave in order to find this vault key, and normally most people wouldn't be able to utilize this thing, but I can. I can actually use it to kill you, shut down your stuff, have a nice day, and at that point, Alkaidas fires off a bunch of shots. Now, here's the interesting thing. I thought initially Alkaidas fired a bunch of shots into Gilgamesh because his vault was shut. He was defenseless. But Ishtar right here says, I missed all the vital points, so it implies that it wasn't him. her powers, I guess, are technically like similar and divine, but the color looked like the stuff from the mud. That was what was kind of confusing to me. The color of the shots that were going into Gilgamesh looked like that of Al-Qaeda's. And I think even showed, it looked like he kind of just fired off something at the time. I don't know. Either way, it could be both of them. It could be both of them, because my assumption there is that both of them are working together. Al-Qaeda's and Ishtar at this point are working together. But yes, she goes to leave and says that, try to survive. I missed all your vital points. Though somebody else isn't as forgiving. I don't know how much I want to stick on that. That statement was a little bit odd to me. At the moment that Ishtar goes to leave, it notes Berserker there with them. Berserker starts building up an attack. And Ishtar says, I doubt this one will offer mercy. Now, it could be simply the fact that this thing is a killing machine. And again, they kind of imply that before. When they were stuck inside that little zone, the thing was just going crazy. And at some point, Ishtar's like, you should probably tell it to do something, because otherwise it's just going to destroy everything. Which, I mean, if you want them to do that, that's probably going to do that. I think the idea there is this thing is just like indiscriminately just destroying everything, killing everything in sight. And it's not going to have mercy to him when he's injured. It's just going to blast him. Now, why it specifically targeted Gilgamesh, that's the question mark. Does that imply to me that, its master, I forget her name is, Hari? Did Hari command it to take out Gilgamesh? And again, is that part of that agreement that potentially was made with Francesca? That, again, I'm assuming actually happened. I don't know. But yeah, that shot. That was actually incredibly done. Again, that little, build up right there. The heat starts to build up, and then suddenly just everything behind him just disintegrates and just gets liquefied. He just gets knocked out. Freaking Tina over there just freaking out because her Gilgamesh, her king, is just roasted. Again, I don't think he's done. Again, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Enkidu looked like he was trying to assist Gilgamesh that entire time, deflected one of the shots, and I think that they probably will intervene in some way. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want my Gilgamesh to go away, but at the same time, kind of feel like somebody's got to die in this entire fight, because things went down. Again, Jack nearly died. Al-Qaeda's is poisoned with Hydra venom. All this kind of crazy crap's going on. I'd expect that somebody's got to croak. And we technically did fake out John's death. But yeah, other than that, we did see a brief little scene of Sigma with Assassin running into Jester, which did bring up a very interesting point here. Them going together, and eventually at some point, Jester shows up. Assassin has to save Sigma, and then he's like, hey, you made a good choice bringing her with you, otherwise you would have been dead, but I don't like the idea that you're at the side of my beloved. Get out of the sight of my beloved. I'm gonna kill you. How dare you? And then Sigma shooting him in the head and saying, how many more bullets do you have left in you? And he says, how did you get that information? It implies that potentially Jester has a limit to their power, question mark. He's got lives to him or whatever, and maybe potentially if they kill him enough times, he's going to run out of some resource, and it's going to make him vulnerable to death. That seemed to be what it's implying to me. And again, I would assume that Sigma probably got that information from, Faldius and all them. Francesca probably, most likely. Francesca probably knows the deeper aspects of Jester. But it was an interesting little kind of revelation there. There's something going on there. But yes, eventually the fog starts enveloping everything. It seems to imply that Jester at this point has the curse itself envelop the town, because of everything that Berserker's doing. If things keep going this way, the entire audience and everything is going to get blown up by this freaking Berserker, so I might as well, I guess, infuse the entire town with this fog, this curse that's enveloping everything. Kind of makes me believe that coming the next episode, we're probably going to get into some sort of alternate reality. Like whatever this location that Tsubaki is in with, the ghost, the writer, maybe everybody's going to get enveloped and brought to that area. We'll see. But yeah, overall, again, crazy awesome episode. Really liked it. Some crazy stuff went down. I think I pretty much covered everything. Let me double check. Oh, almost forgot. We did get a little bit of insight into Ayaka. That was interesting. Again, this is something I was kind of curious about when we first started talking about the Little Red Riding Hood, that little story. If it was going to actually be Ayaka, if she was the victim child, and that this curse was in the apartment that is then applied to her, that is basically haunting her. This little flashback seems to imply that it was her, that she was actually Little Red Riding Hood, or at least is opening that door for it, because yeah, this little opening segment kind of shows where Ayaka is being confronted by, question mark is it the Einsburns, or if it's Philia, or specifically Ishtar now in the vessel. I'm assuming it's probably Ishtar, because what they say is that I can get rid of that little Red Riding Hood inside of you. They come to Ayaka and say, I know this thing's inside of you, this curse, this potential killer is inside of you, and you're afraid of it, and it's overtaking your body, it's possessing you. I can get rid of it. You just have to go apply yourself to this Grail War. Once you do that, I'll get rid of it. Or do you want it to take over you? Do you want to be devoured by her? Interesting. Again, I would assume based on who Ishtar is that they can make the claim they can get rid of something that is inside of her. Again, if it's some sort of possession, it's a ghost, some sort of evil, vengeful spirit, whatever. I can see her making that promise. And yes, I can see that Ayaka being haunted by this thing is going to be jumping at his Grail War in order to get away from that curse, in order to get rid of it. But interesting revelation. And yeah, I kind of assume that with how powerful she is in being sort of, again, a proxy for Richard to kind of feed off of, and her being able to also link up with Assassin, that potentially this vengeful spirit might have something to do with that. This little Red Riding Hood could potentially have some sort of key in doing that. Anyways, super cool stuff. Again, getting to see my Ishtar, confirming my Ishtars here. Hopefully not rip Gilgamesh, but we'll see. Anyways, hype for next episode and looking forward to it. God damn, we're getting so close to the end of the season. I just realized today, I'm like, holy crap, we're like a couple episodes away from it being over, and then we have to wait another 6 years to get episode 1 of season 2, and then another 2 years to get episode 2, and then so on and so forth. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit the like button below. If you like this content and you want to support the channel more, become a member. Until next time, you'll take care.